Okay. All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming to For You on the 4th. This is our October 2020 Zoomiverse edition. Sadly, I can't share lots of food with you as I like to do in real life, right? Carrie and I love to feed everybody. Love the food. The food makes people happy. So, and Bill from Bill Addison is joining us from, where were you? Newport News? Is that what you said?
Newport Beach.
Newport Beach. Newport News. Where is that? That's like in New York.
Rhode Island, isn't it? I don't know.
We'll confuse everybody. So my name is Jeanette Garrity Gomez. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the assistant chair at MICA in the Humanistic Studies Department. We do For You on the 4th, a liberal arts and wellness event every month on the 4th. And we've never done it on a Sunday before because when we're in person, we generally don't go to camp. Well, I don't go to campus on Sundays, but this is exciting that we can do this on a Sunday morning, afternoon for people, or evening, right? For Peter, who's joining us from China. So I appreciate that. And Bill, would you be able to just introduce yourself really quickly for us?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me on a Sunday with Jeanette, and thanks for putting up with my weird backlit profile. If you're just joining in, I just really try hard as a restaurant critic to keep my profile still low in a very digital age. I've been a restaurant critic for 20 years and have managed to keep my face off the internet. So I'm going to keep trying to do that until it's gone, until my anonymity is gone, and then I will try not to worry about it too much. And it's good for me to have anonymity because as a restaurant critic, I want to have the same experience that you have when you walk into a restaurant. So if everyone knows my face, then they get flustered and I get special treatment, and the chef is on high alert and he wants to send out extra dishes, or she wants to, like check every plate obsessively. And I don't want that. I want to just have the same kind of experience that everyone else does. Because, if I write about just how fancy my meals are, how extra my meals are, then, it kind of defeats part of the point of restaurant criticism, which is like telling y'all if the food is good or not, and whether it's worth spending your money there. And if I don't have the same experience as you do, then it's hard for me to tell you that.
Cool. Hey, Bill, we're going to start off before we get to your section of the event with how we always start our events, which is with our pets. So we always de-stress with our MICA pets. So Sophie is our official spokes dog, and she is bringing it in your honor today, right?
Oh, absolutely. So she is rocking her own little pumpkin in honor of the conversation today. We'll see how long it lasts. She thinks it's a toy and she keeps trying to eat it. But for those who have not met Sophie, this is Sophie. She will be 3. Oh, we're sleepy. She will be 3 in January. And she's a little annoyed with me right now because I made her come down from the window. I work on my dining room table, as many are doing who do not have offices at home, and she likes to sit on the table and look out the window, so she can make sure that everything is good outside, protect the building, and keep everybody safe. But she has been a blessing to have during all of this chaos, because she spends most of her life unconscious under a pile of blankets on the couch, but she is always willing to come and snuggle and do something goofy to lighten the mood when everything gets heavy. So but yeah, if other people have pets around them that they would love to share with us, we would love to meet them virtually, and hopefully sometime soon in the future we will all be able to be together in person and you can meet Sophie for real.
Awesome. Peter, I know you have a dog. Is your dog around, or is it?
Actually, he had already asleep.
He already went to sleep. Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
smart dog, right? Well, apparently Sophie likes to sleep too. Really? So I have, there's Lucy. You can't even really see her. She's just like a black blob. But she's asleep because that's what cats do. But I also this morning have, I don't know if you can see this, it's kind of hard to see, but we have, can you see what's happening in there? You might not be able to see it. Ugh. Can you see that there is
a butterfly?
That is a butterfly. And there's another one about to come out. We have a monarch with us this morning, which is pretty cool. They are very late coming out. They need to get a move on because they have to fly to Mexico now. So they need to wake up and get going. So this one it closed, which means that it came out of its chrysalis about 2 hours ago. So it really hasn't gotten itself going yet. Its wings haven't started moving yet. And I have another one that has not come out yet. So maybe excitement for you on the 4th, excitement, the butterfly will come out of its chrysalis while we're live. So we can only hope. Unfortunately, they don't make a big ding, 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 I'm coming out, and you can miss it very easily because they're quite stealthy. So, hey, Laura, do you have any pets?
I am afraid I don't.
Okay.
I'm here all by myself during this quarantine. I used to have 2 dogs, but that was some years back.
Okay.
And one of them was an Alaskan Malamute that weighed like 106 pounds.
Wow.
And the other one was a shepherd mix. So I'm just keeping it quiet for now.
Yeah, that sounds like you need to recover, right?
Yes.
After having such a large creature.
And have a clean house once and for all.
Yeah. All right. So I think what we'll get started with is Bill sharing with us about pumpkin spice. So I'm curious to hear, and he has like a super special thing that is happening too, right, Bill?
I mean, crazy super special. Yeah. So I've never had
We can see your face. Hide.
All right, hi. I've never had a pumpkin spice latte before, ever. I used to be a pastry chef. And so, yeah, I would just bake with pumpkin spice, but it wasn't something I wanted to drink. So I have my first ever pumpkin spice latte here that I just picked up. It's sort of like pumpkin colored on the top. I guess they do that on purpose.
Where's it from?
It's from Starbucks.
Okay.
Well, it's kind of greasy. And I mean, it doesn't really taste like pumpkin pie. It tastes kind of fake, but I guess people love it. Okay. All right.
Well, there you have it, a world exclusive.
Wow, I felt like it was like I was really like having the experience of a food critic, like criticizing, like, like critiquing something.
Yeah.
Has anybody else here drunk pumpkin spice? Anything? I have not. Here
I
you
hate
have.
it.
I have.
My husband loves it, and so I've had he made me try a sip once years ago, and never again.
Never again, right? Like, I don't ever need to do this again.
Absolutely. I don't like pumpkin anything though, and I think that just might be a cultural thing because it's not a big thing in the UK. So just bleh.
But people love it.
It's weird.
Louise, but is pumpkin pie or the combination of, is pumpkin cake, is the combination of those spices something that you would bake with in the UK?
Absolutely not. Like, I had never seen pumpkin anything until we moved to the US, and it might be, showing up in places now just because of the transfer of culture and, following of trends. But Never, never, ever, ever.
Mhm.
So we also, I think part of it too is like we don't do Thanksgiving. So, you
Right.
know, those two things being kind of connected. So
Yeah. It was, so Jeanette just reached out to me to ask me to like think about this subject for a minute, which is funny because you know, the thing that's cool about writing about food and thinking about food is that food takes you in every direction. You know, it's never just about the food. It's never just about the taste of the greasy, fakely spiced pumpkin spice latte. Sorry, Starbucks, if those spices are real, they don't taste real. But I think what was interesting when I started looking up some of what people have written about pumpkin spice over the years, first of all, wildly, there is like, who knows exactly where it came from, or what the trajectory of this combination of flavors, you know, has been like over the years. But there is a recipe for pumpkin pie in the first cookbook published in America. It's literally called American Cookery, and it was published in 1796. And um, you know, it is a recipe that calls for mace, nutmeg, and ginger, um, or a variation that has allspice and ginger. So it could have been that cinnamon, which is probably the main flavor these days, was harder to come by. But when we're talking about spices, we're talking about ancient spice routes, and the ways that spice routes made their way through the routes in the Middle Ages, and then into, you know, the 15th and 16th centuries. We're basically talking about colonialism. Like like it's interesting because in some ways pumpkin spice is one of like the one ultimate modern expressions of whiteness, right? These are um, spices that come from India, from other parts of Asia, that were brought into the Western European palate through um, through companies like the East Dutch Company, that was like, you know, at the forefront of colonialism. America itself is a product of colonialism. Squashes like pumpkin is an indigenous food, part of the three sisters that that the indigenous people here, that's corn, beans, and squash, that was part of the essential diet here for millennia. Who knows how long before the colonizers showed up and wrought their destruction of their culture. So it's sort of a sobering thing to kind of, but also incredibly appropriate at this moment in America, when we are the culture at large is taking such a hard look at everything about how our country, how its culture has been built from the ground up. And you know, weirdly, you can look at pumpkin spice as a part of that. It's a synonym for like white comfort. um, and it's not to say that only white folks like the taste of pumpkin spice latte, but it is really a product of American tastes, and that is inextricably linked to whiteness and its influences over all the cultures that exist on top of each other in America. Um, and at the same time, I dropped in a link at the top of this for this Bon Appetit story that I just thought was really fun, because the woman who wrote it is a pastry chef in Los Angeles. When I started this job like a year and a half ago, her restaurant was actually the first one that I reviewed, and it's since closed. That restaurant didn't make it, and she reinvented herself, kind of really just focusing exclusively on pies, and they're so good. If you come to Los Angeles, you should go eat Nicole Rucker's pies. They're amazing. But she wrote this funny article about how she's this, pastry chef in serious culinary circles, and she was a competitive barista for Intelligentsia, a big coffee company in the US. But, like, this is her coming out story of how she's like a basic bitch, quote unquote, to about, loving pumpkin spice latte, and how she would wants to customize the hell out of it. And so there's this whole other thing around pumpkin spice, this whole elitist classicist conversation, where it's sort of like, if you like pumpkin spice everything. So Starbucks introduced the pumpkin spice latte situation in 2003, at the time when Starbucks was like taking over the universe. And I think that they bank well over $100 million on pumpkin spice products a year. And it begat this whole industry, right? Pumpkin spice candles, pumpkin spice Kleenex, pumpkin spice, t-shirts. And so it's fascinating then that it became this really like mainstream thing to love pumpkin spice. But then there's this inevitable sort of like, well, if you love pumpkin spice, you're basic, you're part of like just middle America, like unsophisticated tastes. And then there's the backlash on the backlash, where it's like, don't you tell me what to like or not like. And this whole thing of like being proud of basicness, which is sort of what Nicole like says in a great way in that piece. Like, she just talks about, how she's not gonna be ashamed of her love of pumpkin spice stuff, and how it brings her comfort, and she's gonna find comfort anywhere she can find it in this cruel world. And I mean, amen to that too. So yeah, I mean, I feel like it's funny to think about how all that comes out of the packaging of pumpkin pie spices, which of course is so tied to fall, so tied to our notion of Thanksgiving, as Louise said. And if I'm not wrong, do you know who started the packaging of pumpkin pie spices? It was McCormick in Baltimore in the 1950s. And it really caught on. And I mean, man, I remember, I grew up in Bel Air in the suburbs of Baltimore. And I remember that like white and red metal tin from the 70s that was pumpkin spice that probably, I mean, sat in my mother's cabinet for 20, 25 years. I can't imagine, like, no wonder like our pumpkin pie got more bland every year if she used the same aging, dying, dried spices every year for the pumpkin pie that she made for Thanksgiving. My mother likes to make pie. She's good at making pie. She makes peach pie in the summer and apple pie in the fall, but only busts out the pumpkin pie at Thanksgiving. So I don't think that my mother drinks pumpkin spice lattes. Jeanette, do you think that my mother drinks pumpkin?
No, no. And I am not going to tell Paige that you were like busting on her pumpkin pie, because she will not be happy.
She will not be happy. My mother's a handful, y'all.
Yes, she
So,
is.
but in case this finds her way to her, love you, Mom. Love your pies. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Does that
Yeah.
does
So
anything I said resonate with anyone?
it does. It looks like people have been sharing. Chloe shared some 13 abominations or something. And I was sharing pumpkin spice Twinkies, because, you know, that's important.
There's
As a-
cereal, like pumpkin spice cereal.
I hadn't even gotten to pumpkin spice Twinkies. Like, so that's what happens after the apocalypse. Like that's what
Hey, they'll
aliens-
last. They last forever.
Exactly. They will unwrap packages. I'm horrified. I don't. Pumpkin spice Twinkies just takes it too far.
Yeah,
But
but Bill, if you're hungry, I don't know.
I know, exactly. So there you go. That's my coastal elite perspective. You know, I'll own that.
So is there, so when Bill and I were talking about this, and we were talking about the spice routes and the colonialism, because really it is just a sort of a window into what sort of, not to keep using the same word, but that abomination, like what can come from, you know, this cultural, not borrowing, but taking, right? And the ways in which capitalism is tied into this, and the fact that, you know, what was that, 100 million, did you say?
100 million annually on pumpkin spice.
I have neighbors though that stock up on, what is it? Coffee Mate makes a pumpkin spice coffee. And I mean, she freezes it, and she was, you know, and she gets so excited when it shows up in the stores in August, and she buys it like in bulk and freezes it through. And she's usually able to eke it out, and usually only has to sort of suffer through July without her pumpkin spice. So there are people that are
every single day, or is that like,
it's not every day, because she likes, you know, when you,
right,
you
okay.
know, but
Sometimes the French
throughout the year, it
Okay.
is, she's intense. She loves that pumpkin spice. She would be horrified to hear us saying anything even remotely negative about. But so how many people here actually really love pumpkin pie?
I love pumpkin pie.
Yeah. Tiffany just made a pumpkin pie, right?
We made the first one of the season on Friday, and it's gone.
Now, do you eat that unadulterated, or do you put whipped cream, or?
We don't believe in ice cream. We like the fresh whipped cream with it too. So that's part of the excitement, I think, of the pie.
Laura, what about you? Do you make your own, or?
No, I think, well, for years now, we go over to my parents and they just get the store-bought. If it's served with the whipped cream, I'll take it, but I'll eat it plain and I'll be fine with that. But I have one question about, like, from a commercial standpoint, I know that pumpkin is associated with Thanksgiving in the fall, but why is it that stores and restaurants, they come out with these pumpkin flavored ice cream or whatever it is for such a short period of time? If they made all that money in just that short time frame, why not just sell it year round?
You know, I think
the marketing execs would tell you that novelty sells.
Yes, exactly.
That's why it's like, you know, you deny them the rest of the year and then they just go like crazy over it.
You know, and it's part of the twisted, rich kind of cultural clash in America too, where you have the idea of America is that you can have whatever you want whenever you want. But then also the flip side of that in sort of the American like food revolution was that you prize seasonality, right? And so I think that those two things kind of merge in the marketing mind behind these things to say like, A, we're going to do something special and seasonal and novel, as Tiffany said, but then also it's like, see, look how seasonal we are too. It's a funny, twisted, purely American concept.
Yeah, but I see it with Christmas. They are like the stores are putting up their Christmas decorations earlier and earlier. So that season has widened in the year. And I personally have not seen that happen with the pumpkin spice products.
Yeah, I mean, I guess nothing should surprise me, but even when Jeanette just said that the pumpkin spice creamer comes out in August,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, like that's, that's when you're eating peaches. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think, Laura, it is like this phenomenon of, the holidays moving further and further, up in the calendar, and then also being completely over the day, within 15 minutes of the clock striking midnight, I mean, at least that's the way I feel like Christmas. It's like everybody takes everything down really quickly. So, Hey, Peter, tell us about, I know you're an expert chef, right? And you're going to speak for, in your family, do you all cook with pumpkin or squash?
Uh,
Do you have any
No.
idea?
in China, people only put pumpkin in rice or rice gruel.
Okay,
Yeah.
only in rice?
Yeah.
So it's really more of a savory, it's not used with sweet?
Yeah.
So savory meaning like, Bill, tell me how to define savory in a good way.
wait, so savory is the opposite of sweet.
Right.
Right. So yeah, gosh, that's a great question.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, how would we describe savory other than by saying the opposite of sweet? It's hard to be a dictionary on command. Go ahead, Peter.
Can you tell me how to spell the
Savory?
Yeah.
I'll type it in the chat for you. Yeah.
Thank you.
So this is excellent.
Oh, I guess it is, yeah,
Your
belonging in the
grammar.
category that it's salty or spicy rather than sweet.
Yeah, yeah. So more salt, more spice, more maybe even heat, like that makes you go. Mm.
Peter, what part of China are you in?
Shanghai.
Ah, wow. Okay. I've not been to Shanghai, but it's very high on my list of places I want to go eat.
Yeah, Bill doesn't say places I want to go visit. He says places I want to go eat.
I didn't even realize I did that. Oops.
Yeah, that's pretty
Way
funny.
to travel.
Yeah, definitely been a different kind of restaurant critic year for you, huh?
Oh yeah. I mean, radical. It's been a crazy year for all of us, but for my job, some critics I know have stopped writing about, the act of eating food from restaurants altogether. They turned their attention to articles on how restaurant workers are getting through this moment, and often how many of them, including undocumented workers, are really struggling. There has been a lot of conversation about sort of the broken structure of the restaurant industry, which again is nice to meet you, Tiffany. Take care. Yeah, which has a real hierarchy to it. And what's the guy on Hell's Kitchen who yells at everyone, like the stereotype?
Gordon Ramsay.
Gordon Ramsay, thank you. The stereotype of like the angry male chef and how he yells at everyone. Like there's a lot of destructiveness behind that, and people are really thinking hard about how to dismantle that structure and create a restaurant culture that is more inclusive in terms of pay, in terms of who gets credit for creating recipes, kind of back to the notion of appropriation, like who like recognizing the culture from which you're deriving the dishes that you're making in restaurants. Yeah, so I think, you know, it's been a year of kind of some deeper thinking and some deeper reckoning. They're also in the media. We're talking about who is writing this stuff, right? And media has been very white in America. And so there's a lot, and restaurant critics have been very white in America. And so there's lots of talk about making sure that that doesn't happen going forth. And around the time that I started at the Times, it was this is a longer story, but there were 3 other restaurant critics who started in California at the same time. There was just a big, wild turnover in one food critic in Los Angeles who's sort of a legend. His name is Jonathan Gold. He died of cancer in July 2018. And the longtime restaurant critic at the San Francisco Chronicle, which is, of course, one of the great restaurant towns and one of the most influential food cultures in America, he retired. And so it was a chance to bring in a lot of other a new generation of food critics, and they hire, you know, of the 4 people who started at that time, I'm a white guy, and the other people who started were 3 women of color. And so it was great to kind of get a new generation of voices in here and to be part of that with them. Yeah. So again.
Well, I shared that book by Toni Tipton Martin.
Oh yeah, who's living in Baltimore? She and I are friends.
Oh,
yeah.
is she in Baltimore? Huh. I didn't know that. I'll have to.
Yeah, she's living. She's probably going to be moving. She just got hired as new editor-in-chief of Cook's Country magazine, which is based in the Boston area. So that's super exciting. But which one are you talking about? The Jemima Code?
The Jemima Code. So I don't know if you all are, you know, if you saw that in the news when Aunt Jemima, the character that was on the, what company was that? Is it Duncan? Is it? They retired that.
I remember, yeah.
But Toni Tipton Martin is an author who investigated African-American cookbooks, and it went into all of the ways in which Black chefs and cooks were treated, and the way in which their recipes were appropriated, and then sort of going back and finding and discovering through the archives the people that are the authentic creators of these recipes, and a lot of cultural traditions in the United States. So it's a really fascinating, and she's on Twitter and you can follow her there. But check that book out if you haven't seen it. It's really
and if you feel like listening to something on this subject too, I just put in the links. I don't know if y'all know Still Processing by 2 writers of the New York Times, Wesley Morris and Jenna Wortham, but it's one of my favorite podcasts in America, and they're 2 Black queer writers, and they are so good at disseminating pop culture and the meaning behind it. And so they had a great talk about reparations for Aunt Jemima. Like literally for the families behind the women whose images were borrowed to propagate the idea of Aunt Jemima, and how they basically went unpaid around the marketing of their family members' images. Yeah. So.
Does anybody have any more questions? We do want to give some time to Andrea, who's going to share, and Carrie, I don't know if you have anything in particular too, but to continue our talk for You on the 4th. But Bill is available to us, I'm sure, via his email, right? And Twitter and Instagram. I encourage everybody to check him out and to follow him, because you will have food envy, believe me. Right, Bill?
I hope so. I don't know. I don't want necessarily even envy, inspiration.
Inspiration. Okay. Yeah. It might make you want to move to Los Angeles, right? Or seek out places in Baltimore.
Yes.
Right. But hang with us, Bill, if you can, if you have a few more minutes.
I do. Absolutely.
All right. So I'm going to throw it over to Andrea.
I want to talk about mental health right now.
Or are you enjoying this?
Feels like we're in a good place.
I mean,
I like, who knew from Pumpkin Spice that we were going to have such a full conversation about so many things? Thank you, Bill and Jeanette. Like, I most assuredly did not expect getting into like the history of the spice trade and colonialism and the issues of class, which I fully like. That is totally me. I'm super judgy about people drinking their pumpkin spice latte. But I guess I also feel like it seems like so processed and like totally not healthy. But of course I eat plenty of crap. So I don't know about. But yeah, super classy. I totally agree with that. Classist. But we want to talk about mental health. I mean, I'm all for it.
If maybe we don't just go, maybe we don't have to talk the fullness of it, but I do want to plug that this week is Mental Illness Awareness Week, and Micah is partnering with Ami for a bunch of events that will be going on over the course of the week. And I
already downloaded. I'm ready.
Nice. Yes. And I'm gonna put the link in the sorry, I private chatted you. It should have been for everyone.
But yeah, I'm excited to do this.
Yeah, so I just put the link.
You need to check this out if you're on your Instagram, or if you can find it on the Micah webpage. Is that where it is, Carrie?
It's on the Micah. It should be on the events page also. But yeah, so I just put a link in the chat to all the events that are going on throughout the course of the week. And some are lighter hearted, some are a little bit more in depth. And yeah, follow us on the Instagram, Micah_wellness. Our students have been making great videos to
yes, they have. Chloe and Fernando, most excellent. To
get people ready and really just like get people talking about mental health and just kind of destigmatize it a little bit, like something that a lot of people struggle with, so it doesn't have to be like weird to talk about or anything like that. So
I will say,
Andrew, you want to add it? What?
Well, yeah, I mean, I had some thoughts, but I feel like at this hour it's a little late in the game for it. But one of the things that's been interesting in terms of the pandemic, of the majillion things that are interesting, is trying to figure out what students need and how to reach people and what's helpful right now. And it's hard to figure out what's helpful. You know, we have an understanding that students are isolated, but it's been tricky for us at Micah to try to hit on like, well, are they? And if so, what's a good way to get to them? So like we've started a group that's running on Saturdays called Connections Corner, which is geared toward first year students and transfers, but really it's for anybody. And initially we had been saying to the students who were there, like, how are you doing in terms of the pandemic? And how are you adjusting to Micah, la, 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 la. And then they're like, that's not really fun. Can we just do fun things? So I was like, oh, right, fun. Yes, of course. So then we just had like a session where we just did like a bunch of icebreakers and we talked about what's your favorite ice cream? You know, we got to food, to topics that people enjoy. And that was better. And I was like, oh, duh. Like, we just need a little bit of levity because things right now are pretty intense. But it's been for us, like the mental health practitioners, a different challenge of figuring out what students need right now and how to help them. And it's hard because we can only connect like this and people are kind of tired of doing this. So trying to play around with different ways to reach them. So I'm glad the campaign is happening this week. And Chloe, your videos with Fernando. Of course, I adore and I love seeing you. I've only been thinking like, are these two living together because they're not wearing masks? Chloe.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to get your personal business, but that's been my own. I'm like, oh, now I'm like in my head.
Yeah, the only reason we were all okay doing that is Fernando, and he lives with Liz. They've been social distancing, and I had to get a COVID test a couple weeks ago, and I came back negative. So it's all
okay. Thanks, Chloe.
Yeah, no,
Sorry,
we're all good.
I just was worried.
But Chloe, is there anything else that you want to add, maybe around mental health or the campaign, or just, you know?
Yes, actually, there's a big thing. So a video about it just went up on the Micah Wellness Instagram yesterday. So something that I Will Listen is doing. When we did it in person, they had a pledge campaign. So there would be like a table set up, and you could go sign a card that would say like, my name is blank and I pledge to listen because blank, and you could write it out. But you know, since we're all virtual, we're going to do a virtual pledge card campaign. So on the Micah Wellness, there is a post with a blank pledge card that you can take. Yep, it looks like Jeanette. I don't know where you're at on my screen. I'm in the middle, but so you can post it on your story, or you can make a post about it on Instagram, and you can fill the card out virtually and share it. Tag Micah Wellness and NAMI Baltimore, and then share it with all your friends. So I made a video explaining just a little information on how to do that. That's on Micah Wellness. So check it out. Take the virtual pledge. I still need to do it, but yes.
You have the week.
Yes, it's Mental Illness Awareness Week.
Yeah, it's all good.
And that's part of taking good care of ourselves, that we don't feel that pressure, right? Like, it's okay. You'll get to it when the time is right.
Yeah.
I keep trying to tell myself that.
No, it's good. It's good. Tell yourself. Yeah. Go take the pledge. Woo.
Thanks, Chloe. Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah, that's good. Well, thank you for sharing that information, because I think it's really important what I'm seeing when I'm looking at people's, just checking out what people are posting, and as a professor, trying to figure out, how to strike that balance of rigor, because we are in school, you're paying me money to, to share information with you and to ask you to, respond in ways that show that you're getting something out of it, right? And then, but also along with the fact that people are in a lot of classes, and we need, there's only so much eye strain somebody can handle. There's only so much hours in the day. The days on the East Coast are getting shorter, the daylight, and that's really that's definitely something that starts to, and maybe we should talk about that in November, how to combat seasonal affective disorder, right? Because not having sunlight, unlike Bill, who's living in sunny Los Angeles.
With a palm tree out his window, no less.
With a palm tree trying to make us jealous.
The days are still shorter, it's just warmer.
Hey, Peter, what about the weather in Shanghai? What is it like there? Tell me.
It's become colder, but yeah, it's just fine. It's not, there is not a really big change in weather between the, summer and the fall in Shanghai.
Okay. Is there like a rainy season, or is it the 4 seasons of winter and fall and
there are no really many rainy day, but yeah, it's many clouds in sky all the day.
Mm-hmm. I have a student who she's living in Colombia, or I'm sorry, she's in Venezuela. And so right now it's getting very, very hot and humid for her, the rainy season is coming to a close, but the heat is starting to build up. So it's interesting because that's something that, normally we share, sort of that collective feeling about fall at MICA, and seeing the trees along Mount Royal change with the seasons. I always really enjoy that. And I know that we have some people who post pictures of what the campus looks like, and I appreciate that a great deal, because not everybody is here in Baltimore and gets to see that. So the change of seasons. But I think, Bill, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. And I didn't mean to cut off the conversation, because I think we could have talked for a lot longer. I think there's a lot, and I said to Bill, I think we could have a really fascinating conversation. Oh, look, how nice of you to join us. This is
Full circle pet action.
A little cat action for us. So he likes to make appearances on Zoom. He particularly likes certain people's voices. So it's interesting. Every time I'm Zooming with my co-chair or the assistant, I'm the assistant chair. She is the chair, Mel Lewis. Jasper comes running over immediately. So he really likes Mel's voice. But in terms of thinking about food and spice and trade, and what is happening with some of the food trends in the United States and the impact that it has on the countries where those foods originate from, thinking about avocados, thinking about quinoa. What's another one, Bill, that I think there's something else that you said. What was the other one that's really getting impacted by high demand in the United States? I can't remember.
I don't know, but there's a long history of it, right? Like oysters used to grow all around Manhattan and in New York, and there was such demand that it killed the beds. And sea bass was this big thing in the 90s that everyone ate, this Chilean sea bass, which was renamed. It was the Patagonian toothfish, which is not as sexy a name as Chilean sea bass. So they renamed it that for marketing purposes, and then that got overfished and had to be pulled back. So yeah, almost in every aspect of food, save for maybe vegetables, you can find examples of over demand and ill effects from it.
Yeah, I just thought we have a minor, I think it's a minor, I shouldn't say this and then it goes on recording, but the sustainability concentration, that I think those students would find that a really fascinating conversation to talk about, the connection between the demand and the supply and the impact in different countries and different places, and just the way that we do farming in the United States, right? And what, so I think there's a lot to explore that, on one level you think of, pumpkin pie and things like that. And then you think about the three sisters, which is what I put in the beans, corn, and squash, which is that grown in combination, and that tradition coming from indigenous populations in the US, and the ways in which, Louise, who is from the UK, was saying earlier, that doesn't really exist where she was, right? So just there's a lot of fascination and fascinating ways that we could take that conversation. I hope maybe, Bill, you could join us again sometime, maybe not in For You on the 4th, but in another venue with Mike.
Of course, anything for you, Jeanette.
Yeah, it's good to, the one really positive from this pandemic is being able to connect with people all over during work time, right? Yeah. Jasper just fell. Come on, get out of here. Anyway, being able to bring in speakers from all over, because we're doing it virtually. Whereas, in Bill wouldn't have been here in real life during this time to join us. And you know, the possibilities of attending lectures that are all over, and it's just super exciting. And you know, a silver lining for the pandemic. I'm going with it. I'm going to believe that. Okay.
Absolutely.
Let's look for the silver linings where we can find them. Yeah.
That's sort of, that can be our theme for Mental Illness Awareness Week, right? Finding the
I
silver.
like it.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. Peter, you need to go to sleep. That's my official word there as your teacher.
Yeah.
And then I'll get back to you about your essay very soon, I promise. Okay. All right. Thank you, Bill, so much for joining us.
Everyone for having me. Nice to meet
Nice to see you,
all.
Bill.
Yeah, and Laura, thanks. Come back again. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you, I did. Nice meeting all of you.
Nice to meet you too. All right. Bye, Chloe.
Guys,
Bye, Andrew. Bye, Carrie.
see you later.
See you soon. Thanks.